A poor waitress mistook him for a broke backpacker, not knowing he was a Korean mafia boss and the secret owner of the cafe. And what he did next changed both their lives forever. Before we begin the story, leave a comment telling us which city you are watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. The door of Café Magnify slammed open, and every head turned at the same time. A man stumbled in, drenched by the violent New York storm. A torn denim jacket dripping water onto the polished marble floor, a faded black t-shirt clinging to his lean frame, worn jeans with mud caked on the knees, and boots that looked like they'd walked through hell. An old backpack hung from one shoulder by a single fraying strap, ready to tear completely. His face was a canvas of fresh bruises, purple and yellow across his cheekbone, a split lip still bleeding, dark hair plastered to his forehead. He looked like someone who had just survived a brutal beating. Silence fell like a guillotine. Clients in Balenciaga and Gucci recoiled in their leather chairs. Women clutched their Hermes bags tighter. A businessman in a three-piece suit signaled urgently toward security. Whispers cut through the air like knives. Homeless. Dangerous. Call someone. The man stood frozen at the entrance, swaying slightly. Blood and rainwater dripped from his chin, mixing in a pink puddle at his feet. His eyes, dark, hollow, haunted, scanned the room with an expression no one could read. Rima Mumbai was behind the counter organizing pastries when she noticed the commotion. She looked up and saw the battered stranger, clearly out of place in this upscale Korean cafe where a single cappuccino cost more than her hourly wage. And she saw the looks. Judgmental looks. Disgusted looks. Fearful looks from people who were certain this man was a threat, a criminal, someone who definitely didn't belong. A woman's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Oh my God, is that blood?" Mrs. Park, dripping in diamonds and clutching her cream Hermes Birkin bag, shot up from her seat. "Get him out. He's dangerous. Someone call the police." Phones emerged from pockets. A young man in designer streetwear was already recording. Another customer backed toward the exit, nearly tripping over a chair. The stranger took one unsteady step forward, and the entire cafe seemed to inhale collectively. His hand reached out, not threateningly, just seeking balance, and gripped the edge of a marble table. Fresh blood dripped from his knuckles onto the white surface. "Security," a businessman's voice boomed. Now, Gene Park, the cafe manager, materialized from the kitchen, tall, slick back hair, tailored black suit that screamed authority. His jaw tightened as he assessed the situation, eyes narrowing with something that looked almost like recognition before it vanished. He strode forward, already reaching for the stranger's arm. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This is a private establishment." The stranger swayed, barely staying upright. I just need. You need to leave before I have you forcibly removed." Jin's grip on the man's bicep was iron. "You're disturbing our guests." That's when Rima moved. She'd been frozen behind the counter, watching the scene unfold like everyone else. But something about the way the man's eyes flickered, not with anger or entitlement, but with exhaustion so profound it looked like surrender, made her feet move before her brain could stop them. "Wait." Her voice was steady despite her racing heart. She stepped around the counter, her worn work shoes squeaking on the marble. "He's hurt. He needs help." Jin's head snapped toward her, his expression darkening. "Miss Mumbai, return to your station. This doesn't concern you. He's bleeding." Rima moved closer, ignoring the stares burning into her back. "He's a human being who's hurt." "He's homeless," Jean hissed, quiet enough that only Rima and the stranger could hear. "This is a premium establishment. We have standards. We have clients who pay. He's a human being." Rima's voice rose, surprising even herself. She stepped between Jean and the stranger, her 5'6" frame dwarfed by both men, but her presence somehow filling the space. "Step back." Thunder cracked outside, rattling the floor-to-ceiling windows. Rain hammered against the glass like 1,000 fists. For 3 heartbeats, nobody moved. Then Jean released the stranger's arm, his mouth twisting into something ugly. "Fine. You want to play nursemaid? He's your responsibility. But when something goes missing, when he Nothing will go missing, Rima said firmly. She turned to the stranger, whose dark eyes were fixed on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Up close, she could see the severity of his injuries, the split that went deep into his lower lip, the swelling that had nearly closed his left eye, the way he held his ribs like they might be cracked. Can you walk? She asked gently. He nodded, just barely. Come with me. Rima placed a careful hand on his elbow. His jacket was ice cold and soaked through, and guided him toward the back hallway. Behind them, the cafe erupted in whispers. The storage room smelled like coffee beans and cardboard. Rima helped the stranger into the only chair, a metal folding one near the supply shelves. He sank into it with a barely suppressed groan. Let me get the first aid kit. She was already moving, pulling it from the top shelf where they kept it for minor employee accidents. Her hands shook slightly as she opened it. What happened to you? Wrong place, wrong time. His voice was rough, accented, Korean, she thought, though his English was flawless. Story of my life. Rima dampened some gauze with antiseptic. This is going to sting. When she pressed it to his split lip, he didn't flinch. Didn't make a sound. Just watched her with those unreadable dark eyes, as if he was memorizing her face. Why did you do that? He asked quietly. Out there. You don't know me. Rima paused, meeting his gaze. I know you're hurt. I know you needed help. That's enough. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise. Maybe, or something deeper. When was the last time anyone touched me without fear? The thought flickered across his mind unbidden. I'm Rima, she said, returning to cleaning his wounds. Rima Mumbai. Kwan. He hesitated for just a fraction of a second. Just. Kwan. Passing through. She smiled slightly, carefully dabbing at the cut on his cheekbone. Rough way to pass through. 20 minutes later, his face was cleaned up as best she could manage. The bruises would take weeks to fade, but at least the bleeding had stopped. Rima disappeared briefly and returned with a styrofoam container. Here. She set it on his lap. My employee meal. Korean fried chicken with yugoli. It's my own fusion thing. You need food more than I do. Kwan stared at the container, then at her. I can't. You can and you will. Rima reached into her apron pocket and pulled out 2 crumpled 20s, her tips from the entire day. She pressed them into his hand before he could protest. For somewhere safe tonight. A hostel, maybe. Nobody should sleep on the streets in this weather. Kwan looked down at the money in his palm. $40. She had no idea. No idea who he was, what he controlled, the empire that bowed to his word. She saw a man who needed help and gave him everything she had. His phone buzzed violently in his pocket, had been buzzing intermittently for the past 10 minutes. He ignored it. Thank you, he said, and meant it in a way he hadn't meant anything in years. You didn't have to. Of course I did. Rima's smile was warm, genuine, lighting up her face despite the exhaustion in her eyes. We take care of each other. That's how we survive. She had no idea that outside, through the rain-streaked window, Gene Park stood under the cafe's awning with his phone pressed to his ear, voice low and urgent. He's here, with the black waitress. No, I don't know why. Yes, she's helping him. What do you want me to do? Inside the storage room, Kwan's phone buzzed again. 54 missed calls from his lieutenants. Messages flooding in. Boss, where are you? Gene is making moves. We need orders. The Chongryong are circling. Boss. Boss. He silenced it and looked at Rima, who was wiping her hands on a towel, completely unaware that she just stepped into a war. 3 days later, Rima was rushing down the subway stairs when she nearly collided with him. Kwan. He turned, and for a moment she barely recognized him. Gone was the bloodied, broken stranger. He wore a butter-soft leather jacket, clearly thrifted but quality, over a clean white t-shirt. His face had healed enough that the bruises were fading to yellow-green. He almost looked normal. Rima. A genuine smile broke across his face, transforming it completely. Hi. They grabbed coffee from a street cart. $2 cups that tasted like burned rubber, but somehow felt more honest than anything from Café Magnify. You seem lost, Rima said, watching him study the subway map like it was written in ancient Greek. Want me to show you how to actually survive New York? The real version, not the tourist trap version. His eyes met hers. I'd like that. The thrift store in Queens smelled like mothballs and old books. Rima moved through the racks like a hunter, fingers flying over fabrics, checking seams with practiced efficiency. This. She pulled out a charcoal blazer. Ralph Lauren. Probably $800 new. $18 here. See. She turned it inside out. Check the stitching, not the label. Quality reveals itself. Quan took the blazer, genuinely impressed. In his world, people paid whatever he demanded. This, finding value hidden in plain sight, was something entirely different. You're incredible at this. Necessity is the best teacher. She winked. Try it on. At the street fair in Flushing, Rima approached a vendor selling hand-knit scarves. The price tag read $60. These are beautiful, Rima said warmly in Korean, surprising the elderly vendor. Did you make them yourself? The haggling that followed was pure theater. Rima complimented, joked, shared a story about her grandmother, and somehow, like magic, walked away with the scarf for $15 and the vendor's blessing. That was art, Quan breathed, genuinely awed. He'd negotiated million-dollar deals with Yakuza bosses, but this felt different. Real. Her apartment was tiny, barely bigger than his walk-in closet, but warm. Colorful fabric draped the walls. Photos of smiling faces. Plants on every surface. It felt like home in a way his sterile penthouse never had. Okay, today you learn Yugali. Rima tied an apron around her waist. It's simple, but technique matters. Watch. She showed him how to stir the cornmeal, the exact consistency needed. When she handed him the wooden spoon, their fingers brushed. Electricity. Then she gave him a knife and vegetables to prep for the kimchi jjigae. That's when things got interesting. His knife work was professional. Too professional. The blade moved in precise, practiced motions. Julienne cuts so perfect they could have been measured with a ruler. Rima's eyes narrowed. You watch cooking shows, huh? Yeah. Lots of cooking shows. Quan kept his head down, focusing on the vegetables. I had time to kill. They cooked in comfortable silence, their movements synchronizing like they'd done this 100 times before. When the fusion dish was complete, crispy kimchi yugali mandatsi drizzled with gochujang honey, they sat cross-legged on her tiny living room floor. Okay, taste test. Rima held up a piece to his mouth. He took the bite and his eyes went wide. Then the spice hit. His face turned red. Tears formed. Rima burst out laughing, pure, musical laughter that filled the small space. She grabbed water, fed it to him, and he couldn't help but laugh too, even as his mouth burned. Still think it's good, she teased. Best thing I've ever tasted, he said honestly. Their eyes locked. The laughter faded. The air between them thickened. He was leaning in, she was leaning in, and his phone exploded with vibrations. The moment shattered. Someone really wants to talk to you, Rima said, pulling back. Quan glanced at the screen, his expression hardening for just a fraction of a second before smoothing back into casual. Nobody worth listening to. But Rima had seen. And on his screen, though he turned it away quickly, 3 words glowed in urgent red. Urgent, Jean making moves. Need orders. Sunmi. Somewhere across the city, in the basement of Café Magnify, Jean Park sat across from 3 men in dark suits. Between them on the table, photos of Rima and Quan together at the street fair, laughing, touching, looking at each other like the world had disappeared. Jin's smile was cold. The ghost is distracted, weak. It's time. The fire escape became their sanctuary. 2 weeks in, and they'd fallen into a rhythm. Rima finishing her closing shift, Quan waiting outside with street vendor coffee, climbing the rusty metal stairs to sit under the stars that barely penetrated New York's light pollution. My Bibi, my grandmother, had a cafe in Nairobi, Rima said one night, her voice soft with memory. Tiny place, nothing fancy. But everyone came. Rich businessmen sat next to taxi drivers. Politicians shared tables with street vendors. Bibi always said, a hungry stomach has no pride, and a full heart has no prejudice. Quan watched her face transform as she spoke. Eyes distant, smile bittersweet. I want to recreate that. Here. She pulled out her phone, showing him photos of an abandoned building she'd saved. This place in Queens. It's perfect. 2 stories, big windows, exposed brick. How much? 200,000 for the building. Another 50 for renovation. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. I've saved 12,400 over 2 years. At this rate, I'll be 60 before I can afford it. Tell me about it, Quan pressed. Your dream. What would you call it? BB's Soul Kitchen. Her whole face lit up. Afro-Korean fusion. Where cultures don't just coexist, they dance together. Kimchi with yugali. Bulgogi with Sakuma Wiki. A place where my grandmother's spirit meets soul's heart, where Black and Korean grandmothers can share recipes and nobody questions if you belong. Quan felt something crack open in his chest. What you're building, it's the opposite of everything he caught himself, jaw tightening. Everything I thought mattered. You're creating bridges. Most people build walls. What did you almost say? Rima's eyes were too perceptive. Nothing. Just you're extraordinary. She taught him Swahili on those nights. He taught her Korean. They'd quiz each other, laughing at mispronunciations, fingers occasionally brushing as they gestured. Okay, this one's important, Rima said, her voice playful. Nakapenda. It means I love you. But it's deeper. It's the kind of love that sees someone completely. Quan repeated it carefully. Nakapenda. Perfect. She beamed. Your turn. Teach me something, he said, his voice dropping lower. Sarangi. It means cherishing someone with your whole heart. Rima repeated, the syllables clumsy but earnest. Neither told the other they'd just taught the same phrase. Neither realized they'd already confessed. We'll see who learns faster, Rima teased, nudging his shoulder. The Central Park picnic happened on a Sunday, their first full day together. Cheap kimbap from a Korean deli, samosas from an East African spot in Harlem, spread out on a blanket that had seen better days. Quan bit into a samosa, and something in his expression shifted, softened, became almost vulnerable. What? Rima asked. I can't remember the last time I had food that tasted like joy. His voice was barely above a whisper. Not expensive, not impressive, just happy. She reached over, wiped a crumb from his lip. The gesture was so casual, so intimate that they both froze. Their faces were inches apart. Her breath hitched. His hand came up to cup her cheek, thumb tracing her jawline. The city disappeared. There was only... His phone erupted. 15 calls in rapid succession, vibrating against his thigh like a trapped animal. I'm sorry, he breathed, not moving away. I should. Answer it, Rima said, though disappointment flickered across her face. It sounds urgent. He didn't. Just silenced it and pulled her closer. They can wait. But the moment was broken. Midnight. Maquan's penthouse stretched 40 floors above Manhattan, all glass and steel and emptiness. He dropped Rima off hours ago, but his mind was still on the fire escape, still tasting samosas and almost kisses. The elevator opened directly into his living room. Sunmi stood in the shadows, a scarred Korean woman in her 40s, ex-military, loyal since Maquan's father was still alive. Her face was carved from stone. Boss, report. Maquan's voice shifted instantly, all warmth vanishing, replaced by ice. Jean is moving against you. He's been meeting with the Chongryong, showing them your surveillance photos with the girl. He's telling the men you've gone soft, that you're distracted, weak. Sunmi's jaw clenched. Half of them are listening. The younger ones especially, they think sentiment is a disease. Let them think that. Boss, with respect, he's planning a coup. He has the Chongryong backing, he has internal support, and he knows where you've been spending your time. That girl is exposed, vulnerable. If he wants to prove you're weak, he won't touch her. He already has surveillance on her. 3 men, round the clock. Maquan's hands curled into fists, and for a moment, the mask slipped completely. Pure rage flickered across his face, the kind of rage that had built an empire on fear. How long? Since the day you met her. Silence stretched like a blade. Double her protection. Shadow detail. She doesn't see them, doesn't know. And Sunmi, his voice dropped to something dark and promising. Let Jean think I'm weak. Let him consolidate power, make his moves, show me everyone who's disloyal. When he strikes, I'll know exactly who bleeds. Sunmi bowed slightly. And when he comes for the girl? Meikwan's smile was arctic. Then he learns why they call me the ghost. Because ghosts don't die, they haunt. And I will haunt Jean Park until he begs for the mercy of a quick death. Across the city, Jean Park stood before a wall of monitors showing live feeds. Rima's apartment, the cafe, the street corner she walked. His phone rang. It's confirmed, a voice said. The ghost is compromised. When do we move? Jin's reflection smiled in the dark screens. Soon. Very soon. The Flushing market exploded with color and sound, vendors shouting in Korean, Mandarin, Spanish, the air thick with the smell of grilled meat and fermented vegetables. Mrs. Kim's stall overflowed with fresh banchan, traditional Korean side dishes arranged in gleaming rows. The elderly woman's weathered face creased into deep suspicion when they approached. Then Rima spoke. In Korean, respectfully, Grandmother, this kimchi looks really delicious. Mrs. Kim's entire demeanor transformed. You speak Korean. And so politely, she clasped Rima's hands. Where did you learn? From YouTube, textbooks, and Korean aunties who were patient with me. Rima's smile was genuine. I'm opening an Afro-Korean fusion cafe. I want to honor both cultures properly. They talked recipes for 20 minutes, Mrs. Kim sharing secrets about fermentation timing, Rima describing her grandmother's Kenyan techniques. Meikwan stood slightly behind, holding their bags, watching with something like wonder. Yeah, young man, Mrs. Kim called to him. Pick good vegetables for your wife. Oh, we're not, Rima started, face heating. Meikwan reached for the produce. His selections were terrible, bruised cucumbers, wilted lettuce, peppers with soft spots. Both women burst out laughing. You're hopeless, Rima teased, bumping his shoulder. Mrs. Kim replaced everything with perfect specimens, then added free extras, homemade kimchi, pickled radish, sesame spinach. For the beautiful couple. You take care of each other, yes. Walking away, their hands accidentally brushed. Meikwan's heart actually stuttered, like he was 17 again instead of a man who'd ordered executions without blinking. Seoul House restaurant was different. Upscale. The kind of place where a single dish cost more than Rima made in a day. Kwan, this is too much. Let me do this, he said softly. Please. The owner appeared the moment they entered, a thin man in his 60s whose eyes went wide when he saw Meikwan. He bowed, deeply. Welcome, sir. We're honored. Your usual table. Rima frowned. Your usual table? I thought you were new to New York. I come here sometimes, Kwan said too quickly. They remember regulars. The owner seated them at the best table, by the window, private, with a view of the city lights. Service was immaculate. Obsequious, even. This is weird, Rima whispered. Why is everyone acting like you're? Sir, a waiter appeared with a $300 bottle of soju. Compliments of the house. I didn't order that. For you, sir. Always. Rima's confusion deepened, but the food arrived, spectacular, each dish a work of art. They were halfway through the meal when it happened. A drunk businessman at the next table, loud and slurring. What the hell is this? A Korean guy with a black girl. He sneered. Yo, man, stick to your own kind. Don't embarrass us like that. The restaurant went silent. Meikwan's entire body language shifted. The warmth drained from his face. His spine straightened. His eyes went dead, not angry, but something far more terrifying. Cold, calculating, lethal. He stood slowly, turned to the man, and spoke in Korean, his voice so quiet the room had to strain to hear. Apologize, or I'll show you how I dispose of garbage. The drunk man's face went white. Actually white. He stumbled backward, knocking over his chair. I'm sorry. I didn't mean I'm leaving. He threw money on the table and practically ran. Every person in the restaurant was frozen. Meikwan sat back down, his expression smoothing back to casual. Where were we? What? Rima's voice shook slightly. What did you say to him? That racism isn't welcome anywhere I am. His hand reached across the table, covering hers. No one speaks to you like that. Ever. It should have felt protective, but something in his tone, in the way that man had fled in terror, made Rima's instincts prickle. She pushed it down. He was just defending her. That's all. The gallery opening in Chelsea was all white walls and people in black clothing, sipping wine and pretending to understand abstract art. Crystal Lee appeared like a vision in designer everything. Head to toe Chanel. Diamond earrings, that particular brand of confidence that came from generational wealth. Oh, Crystal's eyes raked over Rima with thinly veiled disdain. How interesting. You're into Korean culture. The emphasis on you was razor sharp. I am, Rima said evenly. Do you actually understand it? Or is it just, trendy for you right now? You know, like when people wear handbags for Instagram without knowing what they mean. Meikwan stepped forward, but Rima touched his arm. She could fight her own battles. I understand respect, Rima said, her voice steady. I understand honoring traditions that aren't mine by learning them properly. I understand that culture isn't a trend. It's a living, breathing thing that grows richer when shared. Maybe you should try it. Respect, I mean. Crystal's mouth opened, closed. For once, she had no response. Later, on the street outside, Rima finally broke. Tears streamed down her face. All the microaggressions, all the doubt, all the years of never feeling like she belonged anywhere. I'm not black enough for my family because I love Korean culture, she sobbed. I'm not Korean enough for Koreans because I'll never really be one of them. I'm just stuck in between, trying to build something that no one thinks I deserve to build. Meikwan pulled her close, his hand cradling her head against his chest. You're not trying to be enough for anyone. You're creating something new, something brave. Fitting in is easy, anyone can do that. What you're doing, building bridges between worlds, that takes more courage than they'll ever have. She looked up, tears still wet on her cheeks. He wiped them away with his thumb, and then finally they kissed. Not interrupted, not rushed. A real kiss, deep and honest, tasting of salt and truth and everything they'd been holding back. The city disappeared. There was only this moment, this connection, this dangerous, impossible thing blooming between them. That night, Meikwan lay awake in his penthouse, decision crystallizing. I have to tell her the truth. She deserves that. Tomorrow I'll tell her everything. He reached for his phone to text her goodnight, but Jean Park was already 3 moves ahead. In an NYPBC news station, a producer received an anonymous email. Crime boss Meikwan's civilian girlfriend, exclusive footage. Attached were edited surveillance videos, Rima and Kwan kissing, laughing, holding hands. Her face crystal clear. His partially obscured, but identifiable enough. The file also included Meikwan's FBI wanted profile, police photos, crime scene connections. By morning, it would be everywhere. And Rima Mumbai's life would never be safe again. What happens when her world shatters? When she discovers the truth? Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next, because this story is about to explode and you won't believe what Meikwan does when everything falls apart. Trust me, you need to see this. Tuesday afternoon. Café Magnify hummed with its usual crowd. Lawyers negotiating deals, influencers staging photo shoots, executives pretending to work while gossiping about rivals. Rima balanced a tray with a $3,000 bottle of premium soju, special order for a Yakuza delegation in the private room. Her feet ached. Her smile was practiced. Just another shift. The cafe's television mounted above the espresso bar suddenly switched from K-pop videos to breaking news. Breaking. Biko syndicate boss Meikwan survives assassination attempt. Rima glanced up casually. Then her entire world stopped. His face. On screen. Multiple surveillance photos, grainy footage from crime scenes, FBI sketches, police department warnings. But it was him. Unmistakably him. The news anchor's voice felt like it was coming from underwater. Known as the Ghost, Meikwan has evaded law enforcement for over a decade. Wanted in connection with racketeering, money laundering, and organized crime operations spanning 3 states. The Biko syndicate controls significant territory in New York's Koreatown, and the screen split. Security footage appeared. Rima and Kwan, kissing outside the gallery, holding hands at the market, laughing on her fire escape. Her face, crystal clear, unmistakable. The tray tilted. The $3,000 bottle slipped from her trembling fingers. Glass exploded across the marble floor like a bomb. Premium soju spread in a dark pool, the smell overwhelming. Silence crushed the cafe. Every head turned. To the screen. To Rima. Back to the screen. "Oh my God," someone whispered. "That's her. That's the waitress." A woman pointed. Phone already out. "She's been with him." Phones materialized everywhere. Recording. Filming. Flashing. "Are you dating a gangster? Did you know who he was? How long have you?" Rima ran. Through the kitchen, past shocked cooks, out the back exit into an alley that suddenly felt like a trap. Her hands shook so violently she could barely hold her phone. 17 missed calls, all from numbers she didn't recognize. One text from her sister. "What the hell is happening?" "It's on the news." 3 hours, 2 million views. 6 hours, 5 million views. The video of her dropping the tray, her face frozen in horror and betrayal, became instant viral currency. Hashtag Mafia Boss Girlfriend trended nationally. Hashtag Biko Waitress spawned 1,000 memes when your broke boyfriend is actually a crime lord with screenshots of her shocked expression. News vans parked outside her apartment building like vultures. FBI agents left business cards wedged in her door. Her family's phones rang endlessly. Reporters, concerned relatives, people threatening violence. By Wednesday, she'd lost her job. Security concerns, management claimed. By Thursday, eviction notice. Her landlord, "I can't risk gang retaliation." You understand. Friday, she was hiding in her sister's cramped New Jersey apartment, curtains drawn, afraid to go outside. Her mother's voice on the phone cut deepest. "This is what happens, Rima, when you try to be something you're not. When you chase cultures that aren't yours." "I told you." Rima hung up. That particular wound went too deep to bear. Maquan's text came relentlessly. "Please, let me explain. I never meant to put you in danger." "Rima, please." She deleted them all without reading. His voicemails piled up. She erased them unheard, until when she couldn't delete. His voice, raw, desperate, stripped of all pretense. "I know you hate me. You should. I lied about everything except how I feel about you. But you deserve the truth, all of it. Meet me. Warehouse on 9th Street. I swear on my father's grave, you'll walk out safe. No tricks. No games. Just truth. Please, Rima. One chance." Sunday evening. An armored black SUV pulled up to her sister's building. Sunmi stepped out, a scarred Korean woman whose eyes missed nothing. "Miss Rima, I'm here to take you to him." The drive through Queens felt surreal. Rima stared out the tinted windows, and suddenly she saw what had always been invisible. Men in black at corner stores, watching, waiting, cars following at careful distances, security cameras she'd never noticed before, angled at her usual walking routes, an entire hidden architecture of protection that had surrounded her for weeks. How many people work for him? Her voice shook. Sunmi glanced in the rearview mirror. In New York? About 2,000. But Miss Rima, they're not all criminals. Many are immigrants he protects from exploitation. Workers he gave legitimate jobs. Families he shields from worse predators. She paused. You'll understand soon. He's not what you think. But he's also exactly what you fear. The warehouse loomed ahead, massive, dark, ringed by men in suits whose jackets bulged with concealed weapons. Rima's heart hammered. She was walking into the lion's den, and she had no idea if she'd walk back out. The warehouse smells like motor oil and old concrete. 20 men in black suits line the walls like statues carved from violence. And in the center, under a single hanging light, stands a stranger wearing Maquan's face. Tailored Armani, hair slicked back with precision, diamond cufflinks catching the light. His posture radiates cold authority, shoulders back, chin up, hands clasped behind him like a general surveying conquered territory. This isn't the man who laughed when Gochujang made his eyes water. This isn't the man who struggled to fold origami cranes on her fire escape. This is the ghost. And Rima can barely breathe. Was anything real? Her voice cracks like breaking glass. The cooking? The laughing? Haggling over scarves at the market? Or was I just your little social experiment? Your poverty tourism? Meikwan's jaw tightens. Everything was real except the truth. She's shaking now, rage and terror warring in her chest. You sat in my apartment. You ate my grandmother's recipes. You let me give you my last $40 while you probably had millions in your pocket. Billions. His voice is quiet. I have billions, Rima. And none of it ever made me feel what you did when you handed me that money. She laughs, a broken, ugly sound. Oh, so I should feel honored? The big bad mafia boss felt something. Jean Park tried to have me killed. Meikwan's words cut through her sarcasm like a blade. My own second in command. The assassination was internal. I came to your cafe bleeding because I needed to know if anyone in my world would help me without knowing who I was. I expected nothing. I found you. You found a fool. Rima's eyes burn. You didn't just lie about money, Meikwan. You painted a target on my back. Rival gangs want to hurt you through me. My mother won't leave her house. My sister's kids are scared to go to school. You made me part of your war without my consent. I know. His mask cracks just slightly. I know, and I'm... Don't you dare say sorry. She steps forward and 20 men tense. Sorry doesn't remove the death threats. Sorry doesn't give me back my job, my apartment, my anonymity. Sorry doesn't erase the fact that I defended a killer. The word hangs in the air like smoke. Meikwan doesn't flinch. You're right. I've killed people, ordered deaths, built an empire on fear and blood money. He moves to a table, produces a thick folder. My father beat me for showing weakness. First kill at 16. Took over the Biko at 24 after my uncle murdered my father. I told myself I'd be different. I became worse. He slides the folder toward her. Rima doesn't touch it. But then you taught me something. His voice drops. That wealth isn't in bank accounts. That strength isn't in control. That someone could look at a bleeding stranger and see a human being worth saving. He pauses. I shut down our human trafficking operations. 50 million in revenue gone. Refused weapons deals worth twice that. I've been working with the FBI for 3 months to expose the politicians we've been paying off. Rima's breath catches. You're cooperating? I donated 200 million to immigrant support organizations. Reformed Café Magnify into a worker-owned cooperative. Every person who worked there now owns a piece. He meets her eyes. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to let me prove that what we had was real. That I can become the man you believed I was. How? The word breaks on her lips. How do you prove that when everything started with a lie? Time. Distance. He says it like it costs him everything. Let me show you through actions, not words. I'll stay away. I'll respect whatever boundaries you set. But please, Rima, don't think it wasn't real. Don't think I didn't mean every word. The silence stretches like a wound. I need space, she finally whispers. Don't contact me. If your transformation is real, respect that boundary. Meikwan nods once. She sees the effort it takes, sees something human struggling beneath the crime boss exterior. Sunmi appears to escort her out. But as Rima reaches the door, she hears Sunmi's low voice behind her. Boss, the Chongryong syndicate knows about her. They're planning something. Rima's blood turns to ice. Meikwan's response is cold steel, triple her security. I don't care if she sees them or not. Nothing happens to her. Nothing. The door closes. But Rima heard enough. The war isn't over. It's just beginning. And she's already a weapon they'll use to destroy him. 21 days. That's how long Meikwan sits in Java dreams, ordering coffee that tastes like burnt regret. Rima got the job through Mrs. Kim's daughter, a lifeline when everything else burned down. The cafe smells like cardamom and old grease. Nothing like Café Magnify's imported beans and marble counters. But it's hers now. Safe. Anonymous. Except Meikwan shows up every single day. He never approaches. Never speaks. Just orders his terrible coffee. Leaves $100 tip. And sits by the window reading newspapers he probably doesn't care about. And every day, there's an origami crane on the counter when she turns around. Day 7. Haraka haraka haina baraka. Hurry has no blessing. Day 14. Pini mia, Panangea. Where there is will, there is way. She keeps them all in a shoebox under her sister's guest bed, counts them like prayer beads. On day 21, she sits down at his table. Tell me everything, every truth. I'm ready. Mequan's hands shake around his coffee cup. My father broke my fingers when I showed fear. Said weakness was a disease that spreads. His voice is hollow. First kill at 16. A rival who tried to hurt my sister. Took over the Biko at 24 after my uncle murdered my father. I promised I'd be different. He looks up and his eyes are haunted. I became worse. Rima's chest tightens. Built an empire on protection that turned into exploitation. Told myself I was helping immigrants while I bled them dry. He slides legal documents across the table. The viral video. You legally earned $340,000 in image rights. I hired lawyers to get what you were entitled to. Used your money to buy the building. Not mine. Yours. Her breath catches. You what? I didn't buy your dream, Rima. I helped you get what you earned. His voice cracks. I'm working with the FBI because I can't undo what I've done, but I can stop others from doing worse. I don't need you to be perfect. Her voice trembles. I need you to be honest. Can you do that? Every day. For the rest of my life. If you'll let me. She reaches across the table. Their fingers touch. The black van's tires screech before she can answer. Men in masks. Professional. Fast. Mequan lunges but takes a baton to the ribs. Rima screams as they drag her into the vehicle. The door slams. Gone in 12 seconds. Mequan's phone rings immediately. Come alone to Red Hook Warehouse. Ghost. Or we mail her back in pieces. He's already dialing Sunmi before the line goes dead. It's time. Execute the FBI operation. Give me everything. Weapons, wire, team. We're ending the Chongryong tonight. Boss, even with FBI backup, this is a suicide mission. Mequan's voice turns to ice. Then I die. But she lives. The warehouse reeked of rust and old blood. Rima's wrists burned against the zip ties cutting into her skin. 12 Chongryong enforcers formed a semicircle around her chair, guns hanging loose at their sides like promises. Park Dong-sun circled her like a shark tasting blood in the water. The ghost finally shows his face. For a woman. He laughed sharp, ugly. Pathetic. The metal door groaned open. Mequan walked in alone. Hands raised. Unarmed. His eyes found Rima's and something passed between them. An apology, a prayer, a goodbye. Smart move, ghost. Dong-sun's smile spread like rot. Now watch what happens when legends become men. He turned to his crew, voice rising with victory. Koreatown is mine. The trafficking routes, the protection rackets, the political connections, all mine. I've got 3 congressmen in my pocket and 2 judges on payroll. And you. He gestured at Mequan. You're just a lovesick fool who. You should talk more. Mequan's voice cut through the monologue. The FBI loves detailed confessions. He opened his jacket. The wire gleamed. Dong-sun's face drained white. You. FBI. Hands up. Get down now. Tactical teams exploded through every entrance. Windows shattered. Flashbangs detonated. Smoke filled the warehouse like fog. Gunfire erupted. Rima threw herself sideways as bullets tore through the air where her head had just been. Through the chaos, she saw Dong-sun grab a pistol from a fallen enforcer. Saw him aim directly at Mequan's chest. Saw Mequan frozen, accepting his fate. Rima's legs swept out hard despite her bound hands. The chair tipped, but her foot connected with Dong-sun's knee. He crashed down, gun skittering across concrete. Mequan was on him in seconds, 2 FBI agents right behind. When did you? Mequan cut her ties, hands shaking. You think I didn't notice? Rima breathed hard, adrenaline singing in her veins. All those cooking lessons where you corrected my stance, showed me how to pivot my hips for better knife work. I knew. Outside, red and blue lights painted the night. Agent Torres approached as paramedics checked Rima. Mr. Kwan, your cooperation is noted. We'll be in touch about witness protection options. I'm not hiding anymore. Mequan's hand found Rima's. I'm done being a ghost. 3 days later, Mequan spread documents across Rima's sister's kitchen table. The Biko Syndicate is now the Biko Community Alliance. Legal, legitimate, $500 million endowment for the BB May Community Fund. Youth programs, small business loans, immigrant legal services, all of it. His voice trembled. I can't erase my past, but I can build a different future. With you. Rima studied his face, the scars, the hope, the terrified vulnerability. Then let's build something impossible. 6 months later, Meikwan knelt in sawdust and paint fumes at the construction site of BB's Soul Kitchen. The ring was simple silver, opal and jade catching the afternoon light. Marry me. Not because I'm trying to buy you or control you. Because you're my partner, my compass, my home. Rima pulled him up, tears streaming. Yes, but the wedding is simple, real, and about us. The ceremony happened where it should, in the completed café, surrounded by 50 people who actually mattered. Mrs. Kim officiated in her best tombak. Korean pie-beak ceremony flowed into Kenyan dowry traditions. Meikwan's vows shook the room. You taught me strength isn't in control but in surrender. I vow honesty, growth, and choosing you every day. Rima's voice didn't waver. You taught me people are complex. I vow to walk with you through darkness and light, always. They danced to Korean, trop blended with Kenyan Benga. 2 rhythms becoming one impossible beat. The grand opening brought the community flooding in. Kimchi mandatsi, yugali bulgogi bowls, jollof bibimbap that made grown men weep. The wall read, strength is in how we protect each other, not in what we destroy. Meikwan watched Rima laugh with customers, her grandmother's spirit alive in every gesture. She caught his eye across the crowded room. Nakapenda, she mouthed in Swahili. He responded in Korean. After all this time, they finally understood. They'd always been saying the same thing. 1 year later, their family dinner table held Korean barbecue on one side, Kenyan Nyama Choma on the other. Their foster daughter, a black Korean adoptee who'd spent years feeling like she belonged nowhere, looked around at the chaos and love. This is the weirdest family ever. Meikwan and Rima exchanged a look that contained everything: blood and redemption, lies and truth, death and rebirth. Yeah, they said together. But it's ours. If this story grabbed your heart and wouldn't let go, if you felt every betrayal, every forgiveness, every impossible choice between love and survival, then you need to hear what happens next. Because there are more stories like this waiting. Stories where cultures collide and create something beautiful. Where redemption costs everything. Where love demands honesty, even when the truth could kill you. Subscribe now. The next story might just change how you see the world. Or yourself.